but there's also things in our lives and the way that we think that like trap us in our own prisons of discontent. Hi friends, welcome to the channel. Today we have a juicy video. Today we're going to be talking about all the things that I learned on or in my contentment year so far. We're at the halfway point and even like just about halfway through the halfway month. And so usually I bring a contentment update every month, and this month we're doing something a little bit different. So first we have this video where I'm going to be sharing all the things that I've learned so far. More about that in a minute. And then next week I'm going to be bringing a ranking video of all of the things I bought so far this year. And I have some plans to help make it a little bit more quick, a little bit more of a fast review. That's how things are going to shake down this month, and I think you'll have to wait till the end of the video to see where the project goes next and how the contentment year is or isn't going to change. I really want to make it clear before I start talking about anything. What I'm going to be talking about are my thoughts, my opinions, my feelings up into this point in time. I am a through and through student. I've really come to this video like I come to a tutorial where I have all my thoughts up until this point and I'm ready for a discussion, and I'm also ready for my mind to change, to get things wrong, and then also to even like flip-flop on things. So how I feel right now and what I think right now isn't inherently what I'm gonna think in 4 or 6 months. Anything can change at any time. And I really embrace that and expect things to change. Like, I don't think I'm gonna have this opinion forever, because even the way I've thought about the no buy, I felt solid in that opinion, has changed over time. Well, I would really love for everybody to embrace changing our minds. This is not something that's all that common on YouTube, and often what I found is when YouTubers do change their mind on stuff, their audience gets mad at them. So I just want to make that clear before we start. Also, I'm wearing one of my favorite t-shirts today, my Better Days Ahead t-shirt. This t-shirt really just makes me feel great. I have 3 main topics I want to talk about today. And what I want to open up with now is to talk about the no buy portion of the contentment year. When I started this year, when I started the contentment year, I knew that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. There is no model for this kind of project on the internet. This is not something that people are doing. And the closest thing is kind of like the no buy. When you even have a blueprint to go off of, you can iterate or pivot as you see fit. You can maybe try it out and then figure out what's working for you and what's not, and go from there. And I knew that there'd be a lot of experimentation, and some things would work and some things wouldn't, and I was very much prepared for that. So I think the no buy is one of the things that just is not working. And I also do want to make a point too before I start talking about the no buy. I think my intro video implied that this would be a year. The journey would be a year, but in my mind, it was never, this will take a year. It was, let's just start here. So I really think that the contentment project is going to be a multi-year project. I have no plans for 2023. That's a wild thing to say. I'm not thinking that far yet, but what I can say is that this project is not a standalone yearly thing. At least that's how I'm feeling right now. I think the no buy has been so far the biggest mistake. I don't regret going on it because I've learned things I needed to learn through the no buy. I do think that there's a time and a place for a no buy, and I'm really happy that I went on one in 2020. And I think it served me at that point. But what I'm looking for right now is honestly not being served by the no buy. And I'm looking for other things. And so one of the goals I highlighted, or one of the purposes of the contentment year project, was to make my life much less about stuff. And so to put the contentment first instead of the stuff first. And I know that resonated with so many of you. And I did, waffle about no buy or no buy, should I or shouldn't I? And I get why I decided to go on one, because if you're trying to be content with what you have and, who you are, that whole thing, then you should just start where you are and focus on what you have. I still believe that. I really do. But I think what happened here is how I've been wrapped up or gotten wrapped up with minimalism, where minimalism is really trying to do a lot of great things for people and really wants people to, be happy and live their best lives. But it goes through a stuff approach. And I think that's what the no buy is for me. It is too much of a hyper focusing on stuff and less about contentment, which is exactly what I didn't want. So I think it's made the project, even with other attempts to decenter the stuff portion, there's still a stuff portion at the heart of it. And I talked about, honestly, in the last 2 years, about my guilt about shopping that the no buy has instilled in me. I feel guilty and sometimes shameful about buying things. And I've even hid stuff over the years, not this year, but last year. And I'm not even talking about giant hauls. I'm talking about a handful of products. And I've just felt so guilty about shopping and buying things. I don't want to feel that way. And I think being on a no buy is only going to reinforce that feeling. I really believe that I have the capability to discern what's a good purchase and what's not. I don't think every purchase is going to be perfect, but I've really developed those skills over the years, and I trust myself to be able to make those choices. And I think as long as I'm on a no buy, I'm going to continue to feel guilt even about buying replacements, but also about buying a little something. And not even a treat myself something, but the brow gel that I bought and the primer that I bought. I do have things in those categories, but I think that purchase was really sound. And to me, it doesn't bring my collection into excess. I don't think I'll ever stop thinking about excess and overconsumption and what that means. And I'm not making this distinction or saying I don't want to be on a no buy so I can just continue to buy stuff. I just don't want to feel like shit about shopping. And I think as maybe an even more important layer than that, if I stop the no buy and the stuff part of things, I think maybe my mind, or the hope is that my mind will be able to chill out a bit and focus on the other things that I want to focus on instead of always being on the stuff. And I really think that for me, the no buy is really tied to minimalism, and it's one of the last vestiges of minimalism in my life. And I really want to, break that tie and focus on contentment and focus on that goal and not the stuff and how much I own and being obsessed with how little I own or what I own. And even to go with the how little I own, buying stuff and how that plays into how little, how much, and that I want to stop the obsession. And to me, I can't be content with what I have if I'm always obsessing about the numbers. So again, this is not a free rein to buy stuff. As you've seen in Low Buy Bingo, if you want to call it a haul, it was 5 things that I got. One of them was free. I'm not planning to change my channel content at all. I need less of the no buy in my life. I will talk about no buy topics here and there because I do think I have a wealth of knowledge over the last 2 years in playing with no buys and low buys and conscious consumerism, which I think is what a lot of people ultimately want with a no buy, is if there's financial components to it, have that, but also to make better shopping choices. And I think that my content, be it no buy content or not, helps with that. But also for those of you who are on a no buy, I think no buys are great, and I want to encourage anybody who feels like it's for them to try it. The next 2 topics are related, and I want to talk about the actual process of contentment and what I think for me brings contentment. And there's 2 categories there. There's category number 1, which I'll talk about first, which I think is maybe could have 2 different names. One, physical things that you actually do, you have to move yourself in some kind of way to do it. But I also think that this part of contentment is also about bringing things to you or things you can do to foster contentment in your life. And then the second thing we'll talk about are things that bring discontent, which for me is the bigger challenge. And that is more of like the mental stuff, like the in your mind mindset kind of stuff. I think that distinction is one that I didn't make at the beginning of the year. I did make a video about motivation where it was like, what are things that motivate you and demotivate you? But I wasn't thinking about contentment in that way. What are things that bring contentment and also bring discontent? And you have to tackle both. And this became really clear to me during my 6-week contentment challenge, when I was doing everything I could to like call contentment to my life. But as we are people, or as I am a person, there will be things that bring discontent to my life, whether they're things that happen to me or things that are going on in my own mind. That is inevitable. And so I think that challenging the discontent is way harder for me. And ultimately for me, I think that's going to be the thing that will stand in my way of contentment, or it won't. And I think that I can experience contentment with the first category of stuff I'm going to talk about, but it won't be lasting. And that's a distinction I didn't make in that 6-week contentment video. I was like, yeah, I'm content. Like I'm content. I'm happy. But I didn't talk about discontent. And I think that was a really big missing puzzle piece for me that has become abundantly clear over the last few weeks. I feel like in the last 20 days, I've had an awakening in my life about the way that I've been acting, and also how that does or doesn't align with what I said at the beginning of the year. Like I was talking about who I was in 2021, and I was talking about, and even 2020, just like waiting for days to be over. Okay. I had to step away. Even just thinking about some of those things are really powerful. In this contentment project, when I started, while I was harkening back to those times just a few months or a few years ago, I didn't actually have in my mind, and I'm not sure why now, a plan to address that. Like why was I feeling that way? And like, how do I not feel that way? And I think at that time, I probably would have said something like, oh, therapy. And yes, talk therapy is great. And I absolutely advocate for each and every single person watching this video to go to therapy if you can afford it. But there wasn't really an acknowledgement of even like conceptualizing like mini projects of that feeling of who that was and who that is, and addressing that in some way going forward. And I have been recalling memories of my university life, and that is both painful. I mean, that is somewhat painful because some of the worst moments of my life happened in university, even until today. The worst moment of my life happened in university. And so thinking back at university life has been so hard because it's like that, like those memories slam into me first. And then I don't go beyond to think about any of the other things that were good in university. It was like a wall. Like I don't think about that time period at all. And I've been forcing myself to in the past month or so. Sometimes forcing myself to, but sometimes I opened the door, and then once I opened it, somebody would say something, and then I would recall a memory. And recalling some of these memories are like so simple. Going to a house party I was in a welcome week committee, or like a frosh week committee with people from my faculty. They're a pretty close group, and I went to, their parties often, and even like hung with people once I had left and was, an RA. I just like can vividly remember like drinking and singing and like flirting with people and just like being with people, and like I was just me. The memories of like me going out with my friends just like into the house parties. And there's like two in particular that were so deeply stirring to me for two reasons. So they were deeply stirring to me for two reasons. One, because they're so simple and they make me so happy. But two, this is not how I expected the video to go. If I'm fidgeting with my hair in this video, it's because I'm trying to like not cry. Okay, so those memories are some of the few that I have in my life, and I mean genuine few, where I'm both happy. I have to get through this. Where I'm both happy and authentically myself. There has been a lot in this world. I mean, I've already got the red eyes, like, let's just go. There's been a lot in this world that has crushed my spirit. People who have deliberately attempted to do so, and incidents beyond my control that have done so. And again, I've talked about, authenticity in different ways over the past year or so. I did not fully realize how much the world and my experiences have stripped me of my authenticity. It's kind of sad to look back at being 20 and have one of the happiest moments of my youth is to be at a house party with people. That feels a little sad. I mean, in some ways it's beautiful that something so simple can be so happy and so powerful. And also, I don't know, I feel like I have to say this. I'm not trying to discount my partner and our memories and things of that nature, but I do think, I guess I'll say like before meeting him, but also I have been inauthentic in our relationship because I've been an inauthentic person. And I've mentioned this before, but the effects of this didn't get to me until recently, where there was a choice I wanted to make. And I thought about it. And it's kind of a scary choice. Maybe I'll talk about it eventually, maybe not. I don't know. My first reaction was, you can't do that because you don't know what people will say. Like, well, he'll say. My partner does not ask me to check in with my choices. Let me just be clear. I put it in my head that I had to check in with somebody about my choice. Like, I'm not allowed to just make choices. And there have been moments where I've been better about this than others. Authenticity and being myself and coming into my being is now a colossal part of this project that I did not see coming. I want to live my most authentic life, and authenticity for me, I think, is the key for my contentment. Not just authenticity, but I think I have for so long not even attempted to figure out my own authenticity and live in it and own it. I think owning my authenticity is so fucking scary because it's both. What if people don't like that? What a stupid thing to think. Like, you're trying to be yourself and you're most you can be, and your thought is, what if people don't like you? Then those people don't belong in my life or yours. Just that simple. But also it's like, who is that? Who is that person? What does it mean to be me? And that's like kind of existential, and I was dealing with it a bit last year, but I don't think I had the capacity to go quite that far. So now I'm like, holy shit. How do I be my most self? Like, how do I just be me? How do I be Shauna? And then not just that, how do I own it? How do I own that? Like, I think for me, as an example, style is a really simple and easy example of authenticity and owning it, because you choose what you wear, and by putting it on, you're like, yes, I'm saying to myself, I like this. It's an ownership of your being in a way. And so I think style is an easy place to start, but also things like your appearance. Like, I want to look this way, and this is how I want to look. And there are certain things that I've said, like, oh, this person doesn't like this, so I'm not going to wear it. I need to do a lot less of that. But then there's other parts of like, how do I own other parts of my life? how do you own things like your body and your sexuality and your likes and your dislikes? There's a lot. Authenticity is going to be the goal moving forward. That was a huge tangent on authenticity that I was maybe meant to come later. I was going to leave this for last, but let's talk about the rest of discontent now. We'll talk about the what brings contentment later. So when I'm talking about things that bring discontent to our lives, I'm not even talking about like going on Instagram and having people have things or show things that make you want to shop or buy things or make you feel discontent. I mean, that's part of it, but there's also things in our lives and the way that we think that like trap us in our own prisons of discontent. I think for me, I've let my past experiences dictate my future ones. I think I've just been hyper focused on the negativity in my life. Where like I could truly say you've been dealt a really fucked up hand in your life. Like you've been dealt a really shitty hand in your life. That is true. There is so much garbage in my life. But even in the worst moments, there is goodness. And I let this negativity be a way of thinking, like also to expect negative things out of life, but also like not try and do things and let the negative experiences own me. Not in a cynical way, but just almost like succumbing to the negativity and the negative experiences. And I've just let them win. And this is what I'm talking about discontent, is that negativity and my past experiences bring discontent. And even if I'm like over and have dealt with some of them, they've led to this negative mindset that I've just been defeated, as I've talked about. And I think there's a lot of people who've experienced trauma or, negative situations. It can just be so easy to hyper focus on the negativity. And I think it takes an even stronger person, honestly, to say, I've been dealt a shitty hand, but that doesn't mean my future is shitty too. That doesn't mean that like I can't be happy in my future, or that what's happened to me in my past, similar things won't happen in the future. My future can be happy and positive, but like that's my responsibility to make that happen. If I have this negative mindset, I'm being in my own way of my own happiness. I personally will not be a content person if I bring this negative mindset with me for the rest of my life. And the different areas of discontent in my life, when I talk about negative mindset being one, and letting the negativity of the past win, there's also things like authenticity and my lack of authenticity that is a place of discontent. And these things foster other things like self-doubt and low self-esteem and people-pleasing and lack of confidence and belief in myself. I get so sucked into these feelings where any kind of plans I've made for the future or bringing myself happiness or success are always half-hearted, because it's like somewhere deep down inside of me, I believe in my heart I don't. Like, I'm not good enough. Like, I won't achieve them. Like, there's no way in my life I could earn that amount of money, or I could be that happy, or I could have a successful business. It's like deep down in my heart, that's what I believe. So anything I've ever tried has always been half-hearted. I've never seen, maybe on a TV show or with your friends or wherever, where somebody's asked to scream, like literally just, they're asked to scream and like mean it, and then they're like, ah, and it's like so whimpery and that they didn't scream their heart out. That is the analogy, I think, that represents how I've gone about looking for success and happiness in my life. There's no committing to it. Yeah. I feel like I need to harness some of the rage. For whatever reason, I'm not angry about anything, and I feel like I should be, and I want to harness that into something good. I feel like there's like so much suppressed anger. I need to like draw it out somehow. Maybe I need to go scream in the woods. I don't fucking know. I've been trying to give examples of how discontent has manufactured itself in my life. I know I will not be content if I don't challenge these things. Like, how could I like literally ever make money or salary that I'm happy with if I never try. I'm shooting myself in the foot before I've even started. Like I'm setting myself up for failure. For me, what feels the most urgent is authenticity. And I was so awakened recently to my need for authenticity and to pursue that ruthlessly. And I think there's so much more I could say about authenticity. Maybe that's for another video. I feel like there's a ruthless person that needs to come out of me, an angry person, that there's somebody who needs to believe that they are a force to be reckoned with and go at their dreams aggressively because they believe that they can. That is the person that I feel like I need to be for myself, and I want to figure out how to be her. And this is not what I registered as being part of the contentment process, but here we are. So how do I go about dealing with the discontent? As I've said, I think therapy is a good start, but only goes so far. Like I could only talk so much about the people who've hurt me and the events that have hurt me. I need to I need to become that ruthless person who is a force to be reckoned with. Like, how do I do that? And I think that is where the struggle is. Like, how do I become her? Because she's in me. I have her in me. I just need to bring her out. Maybe the first step is just get angry, or maybe the first step is just feeling authentic. Because when we're our most authentic selves, I believe we're our happiest selves and our most content selves. How do I harness my own authenticity? How do I do that? Is maybe the next question to ask. So two of the things I think for me are essential to bringing in contentment, harnessing contentment. To me, I think these are actually non-negotiable. I think that's a better word, because these are things that make me feel great about myself. The first thing is movement. And there's so much science that talks about the benefits of movement, and not even just for heart health and longevity, but for things like happiness and helping with depression or even depressive symptoms. People are not wrong when they talk about movement and exercise being so good for you. And just being so uplifting and powerful and just so effective. And I feel pretty great weightlifting. My muscles are actually they shock me. I can never whenever I'm trying to flex or whatever, I never do it properly. And then my partner will be like, you have to do this. And then I'm like, wow. But also a little part of me loves checking the masculinity of the gym bros when I can lift heavier than they do and they get upset about it. I mean, being at the gym is not a competition, but a little part of me gets a little bit of pleasure in that. Also, for me, running has been maybe the surprise of my lifetime. I can't say that I actually enjoy the run while I'm running, but afterwards, the post-run, runner's high is absolutely insane. I want to be very clear here, I'm not exaggerating. It literally feels like I'm on drugs after the run. I feel so euphoric and happy, and I could literally do anything. I feel so good about myself. I feel so happy. I feel so alive. I can conquer the world. Bringing in that feeling into my life on a regular basis isn't necessarily going to for all of these things, none of these things are foolproof to challenge discontent. But when I'm doing this, it sure as hell helps with my day. My day's always better with a run in it. If I can get it in the morning, this brings contentment to my life, and is a practice that I feel like if I run more regularly, because I'm running about every 8 to 10 days, and I would like to get that in half, every 5 days, I think will make things even better. The second thing is a gratitude practice. I talked about this in my 6-week contentment video. Truly a life-changing practice for me. But if I'm going to make a recommendation of things to start, is gratitude journaling. But again, I'm only talking about my experience. The gratitude journals that are like, I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for me are not effective and they're not the place to be. A gratitude journal that asks you to think about your life and to dig deeper and ask why is the thing that will challenge our preconceptions and how we currently think about the world. For me personally, after sharing my thoughts about like authenticity and also the negative thoughts and feelings I have in my mind that are almost like second nature, I think a gratitude practice is even more essential for somebody like me to challenge how I think. Because if we want to be grateful people, if we want to be content people, we have to change the way we think. And we can't do that without actively being in the process and doing things that will challenge the way that we think about our lives. And a gratitude practice is a way to start doing that. Feeling insecure, questioning ourselves, negative thinking, those are habits. Those are habits. And we need to challenge them. And so I should stop saying I need to challenge them. And a gratitude practice is a way for me to continue or start challenging them. I don't want to say start, but like to challenge them. The last thing I think is an outlet. And by that, I mean a hobby, but more specifically, I think a creative hobby. For me, this is something like art or running, but this can also be something like bird watching or photography, something that you physically have to do that is also an outlet for you. And so for me, I think something poignant would be makeup. I think for some people in this community, makeup is truly an outlet, not just of self-expression, but an outlet. For me, makeup doesn't fit this category. I mean, makeup is a hobby, but it's not the kind of hobby that I'm thinking about here, because I do like makeup and being part of the community. It's not the thing that gets me fired to wake up or come home to do my makeup. It can be a place of expression for me, but it's not an outlet. And also, a creative hobby can also be something like chess and something very mathematical and logical, because there is creative thinking required in those kinds of things. And like my partner falls much more into that category. I would not have considered chess and probably would not consider it for me to be a creative outlet, whereas for him, it totally is. So there's different things that we can do, to be outlets for ourselves. And my rationale for this is that we can't live to work. We can't have our entire lives built around work. I just feel like that fosters discontent and unhappiness. And I think if we do, at least for me, in my opinion, we lose ourselves, or I lose myself. We lose the things that bring us joy, that bring us happiness, and make us want to wake up in the morning and feel alive. And sure, people can do that, but I also think that hobbies are a big part of that. Learning a hobby can both build competency and self-esteem, depending on the hobby and also what you're looking for. And I also have hobbies for both. Like I have hobbies that are about expression, which helps with self-esteem, but then I also have hobbies that are about competency, which would be something like running. And you can beat your time, right? Like you could become faster, stronger. Same with weightlifting. It's about competency and getting the movements right and getting your form right. Not just so you don't hurt yourself, but you're lifting properly so you can build strength and, build and build and build. I mean, both of those things are great. Having an outlet for your life is great, but hobbies are ultimately a way to bring joy and happiness to our lives and make our lives more meaningful and worth living. I think this is just my opinion. If you're part of a couple, I think it's important for both couple members or parties to have lives outside of each other to kind of limit some of that codependency that can happen. I think hobbies are a great place to have something that is yours. And what is a hobby is totally perspective. Makeup and fashion are hobbies for some people in this community. For others, even if they like them, it's not. So it's not this is a hobby or an outlet of expression and this one is not. It's one of those things where it's in the eye of the beholder. In this sense, I have found 3 tangible things I can do every week to make myself a happier person, a more content person. That is fabulous. But when it comes to the discontent, I think that is the biggest place to work on for the next 6 months. So I'm not fully sure how the contentment updates are going to, where they're going to go from here. I think for me, they're essential to keep going, and you guys like them too. Because I'm no longer on a no-buy and I want to really shift the stuff, I don't fully know how I'm going to incorporate that into the video. Maybe it could just be something as simple as a literal list of the things that I bought at the very end of the video, so it's not taking front and center. And authenticity, as I mentioned, is huge for me going forward. And what experiment do I want to start with next? I don't know. So I have some figuring out to do. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. I'm eager to hear what you have to say, or even like what you really like about the contentment updates, what you would like to keep. Any feedback about the contentment updates with this video is certainly welcome. Thank you so much for watching. I know this one was a bit of an emotional one. Thank you for being here, and I really, really hope that this video is able to resonate with you in some way. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again around here soon.